Right. Hello, my friend Maria. How are you doing today? Oh, gosh, I love your scarf, by the way.
I'm great. Yes, I woke up this morning and it's a funny thing that happens when it's suddenly I need to start wearing color again. There's something about spring is in the air, but there was snow on the ground this morning and it was just like, no, I need some colors. So colors.
Oh my gosh, there we go. There's that conversation of spring where I've heard many people, I've done a few blogs about this actually. People look outside and they're like, oh, it's so dark and dirty and there's brown everywhere. The trees are brown. And I stop them and say, you know what? As the snow's melting and spring is around the corner, it's my favorite season. Like I'm so excited because you do get to see like suddenly there's like a little green sprig coming up and and suddenly it's warmer, the days are longer and water's running on the road. And so wear your colors, brighten your colors if it's brown outside, but love spring. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
New life,
absolutely.
new life, new beginning, new to me. That's just
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it. Yeah.
absolutely. The other thing is, we both are such an advocate of being where we are, right? We're honoring where we are. And
Mhm.
so when my reaction is, oh, it's dark, I'm not wanting to, um, in that conversation, it's, so how can I comfort myself so that I can stay present to this, right?
Exactly.
Versus
Exactly.
I don't want to jump to spring if that's not where I am. This morning, it was like I opened my closet door and just went color
Yeah.
and I was feeling giddy on the inside. But the
Mhm.
reality is sometimes, I look out the window and I have that, dark and dreary and and I think for me, when I'm in that dark and dreary and I'm either fighting against I don't want to go where that's calling me to, or I'm going to do such a deep dive in there. It's going to swallow me up. Right. And I'm just going to have a horrible day. And I'm already setting this, it's going to be a horrible day. And for me, it's been a real practice of, okay, so can I soothe and comfort myself enough to allow
Mhm.
myself to experience whatever this is so that it can move through me? I was speaking with
Love it.
my program group, the HMR program group
Mhm.
this week, and I said something in a way that I had never said it before, and
Oh,
I just
wow.
stood up and took notice. And what I said was, the symptoms of grief, whatever the emotion that's coming up, when we fear that we are the emotion or we become the emotion or the emotion is going to stick onto us, that's when we fight it. When we recognize that the emotion wants to move through us and we recognize that we are not the emotion, what we need to do is we need to create a safe space for us to allow the emotion to move through. That's when we're moving with the grief journey and we're learning the wisdom of what that emotion has to teach us.
Mm-mm-mm. Just as you started to say that, you became very bright, like an
Yeah.
angelic, like the light of the spirit. So obviously, those were very wise words. And it's just this. I just love these conversations because I think our greatest fear is that if we acknowledge and allow the dark, the dreary, the grief, and allow it to move through us, it's going to get stuck in us.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
we're so afraid. And here's the thing. We have been grieving things throughout our lives, right? There's been grief, transitions, death, change, all of these things. And here we still are, right? We may
Yes.
have buried and carried grief, Maria TM, um, but we're still creating a life we love and everything. We what we're feeling in this darkness is temporary.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
temporary. Nothing stays the same. And thank goodness. And that's just how it is, right?
That's right.
It's just how it is. Um, yes, I have to circle back, because it's funny when, you know, when you're looking for a vehicle, and if you're looking at a white van, then all of a sudden everywhere you look's like, oh my God, everyone has a white van, white van. And since we were chatting last week about how we don't know what to say when somebody posts, or like someone died, and you see, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I have seen more I'm sorries in the last week. Like, it's glaring, and it's in resources. And I understand, like, I get it. We're sorry. We're not apologizing. We're just sad that this person is experiencing this pain, the loss, the grief. And it's still, you know, you were talking about saying, thank you for introducing me to your brother, your mother, how wonderful. And I still need a something for the, you know, because sometimes you read, it's very quick. Joe died. There's no funeral. There's no anything. You're thinking, okay, this was very quick. And I still want, I'm searching for that perfect thing to say. And like you said, I love that you said you stop, you go back to it so that you can really read and, you know, take your time. I am still searching, and I'm sharing because I'm going to keep searching. And as I do that, things come, like when I was searching, I say to people, I'm a proactive living consultant. If you want grief support, go see Maria. I want to talk to people before the grief.
Right.
And yet people still came to me and they said, well, you know, how can I move on? And I just be the evidence that someone's life made a difference. For me, was just that beautiful, something beautiful to share with them. And I just want to have something beautiful to share with people, you know?
So help me to understand.
Yes.
You want something beautiful to share with people in the moment when they're asking you for support?
No, when they're posting, I'm sorry, instead of I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sending my condolence, something.
Yeah.
No, and it can't be
when the I'm sorry, when the I'm sorry comes up for me, it's I'm sorry that you're hurting.
Yes, yeah. And we are sorry they're
for
hurting.
your loss. I'm sorry that you're hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And my thoughts and my prayers are with you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I'm looking to say, I'm looking to know that they're not alone in their grief journey.
Yes,
But
and that's a really
but not
important one, isn't
pretend
it?
that I have any answers for their grief journey, because they're the experts.
They're the experts.
Right.
I have shared that so many times. Yes.
So here's the thing, though. We want just the right thing to say to keep ourselves safe.
Yes.
Right. So that when I see that and I need to react to it, I know exactly what to say. The problem is knowing what to say is a head thing.
Right. Lead with
And
your heart.
and what's needing to happen in the moment when somebody has posted that, they're posting it because they need a connection. And they don't need a connection to head stuff, you know. So the sending prayers, sending thoughts, like those are lovely sentiments, but to really connect with somebody that's done a post like that is to allow yourself to, in the moment, get present with the post and allow whatever comes to you in that moment. Because we're conduits. Every one of us are conduits. We're all connected if we choose to be.
Yes.
Having the right and perfect thing to say every single time is not being willing to be the conduit for this person in this moment.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not genuine speaking from your heart. It's just the automated I'm sorry, I guess, is, yeah. Like I'll share with you. I actually saw a post from a beautiful woman whose husband, her husband's story I shared in my book. So we already have a special connection. Then we share the same birthday. So I was like, oh, I have to find my friend. I'll call her Josephine. Her name's not Josephine. And I found Josephine, and I read, this is such a heartbreaking time in our lives. Our son just died. Right. And you know, here it gives me even more empathy and compassion for people who say, oh my gosh, I just don't know what to say in this moment, because I was absolutely just stunned and stuck and just felt so heartbroken for her. And and it was after we talked, and I thought, I can't answer this right now. Like, I can't, right? And I read the many I'm sorries, and I just thought, I just need to sit with this. And I was grateful for our conversation. And then I went back and I took a moment, and then I just said, okay. And I was told, lead with your heart and just show up. And so I just sat with it, and I said, I usually send you I went to your post or to your page to send you a message to celebrate our birthdays, because I love that we have our birthdays together. And I've just read about Phil, and I don't even know what I said. I just let my heart speak, and I just said, I just want to hug you right now. I'm sending you and your family so much love as you grieve. And I guess I always feel intentional about writing their name.
Yes.
And if there is something to read, I will say, oh, I didn't know all of this amazing stuff about your son. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing this beautiful picture. And you have to just trust, if you've written from the heart, like you said, right?
Yes.
Then it's okay. And it's funny because, I think it's important to let people know, right? Because again, call me a grief expert. Oh, please. Like, no, that was hard for me. And I pressed send, and I felt nervous about, okay, oh gee, should I have mentioned the birthday? And I just said, no. I led with my heart and compassion, and I will just send this with love. That's the best we can do, right?
It really is the best we could do, because when we suddenly read these things, and it's crazy that these things just show up in our Facebook feed. It's crazy, right?
Yes.
And so when we suddenly see something that brings us to an all stop, oh my gosh. Okay, so there's an all stop. We can say, I read your news feed, and it just brought an all stop to my day. My heart just broke when I heard this. And what's really important is, it's not my heart is breaking for you, because you don't want to say that, because you don't want to put the weight on the person, right? My heart is breaking for you is just helping them to feel more victimized, right?
Interesting.
Nobody needs that. But if we're being truthful, my heart just broke, and I'm owning it. It's my heart that's broken. It's not on you or for you. It's my heart that is broken. So I'm going to speak my truth. And for somebody who's grieving, when you speak your truth without loading it onto them, you are a trusted ally.
Interesting.
When you are trying to fix with your words, when you're trying to do something for me with your words, then I feel the weight of that on me.
That is just to sit with that. So I mean, if you didn't even know someone, why would our heart be broken? I mean, my heart was aching. Why would we feel, you know what I mean? Like, because I mean, that wasn't our loss, or that person we didn't even know, maybe. And so I'm aching because my friend, right? So I'm just
but it's still my ache.
Yes, for sure. Right? Oh yeah.
So it's not I'm aching for you. It's I'm aching at the thought of this.
Yes.
And I'm just sending you so much love.
And when I say that, and that is what I say, and I really mean that. Right? Yeah. Like I don't want to wonder if they think I mean that. Like, I am just, and I do it like intentionally.
Yeah. And we can trust the power of intention. We can trust that our intention is felt. We don't have to worry so much about crafting the words.
Yes.
When our intention is genuine, the intention is felt, it's received, right? But here's the thing, when I teach the basics of bereavement, right, to the hospice volunteers and anybody who wants to learn the basics of walking with someone who's grieving, what I say to people is there are two ways to be with somebody who's grieving. You can help them, and often help feels like this. They're in the water. Just imagine they're bobbing in the water now, and you're going to help them, and help feels like this.
Yeah.
Or you can support them, and support feels like this. I'm going to meet you where you're at, and I'm going to be right there with you.
Beautiful.
Versus I'm going to fix it, or you need my help.
Yes.
There's no rescue that doesn't happen without a victim. So what you've done is you've allocated the other person to feeling hopeless and helpless. And people who are grieving often already feel hopeless and helpless on their own. They don't need your assistance with that.
Well,
right?
and yes, and the truth is, why wouldn't they? Because that's our society in general. We don't have the tools, like we don't have the knowledge. And again, when people say, oh, it's so uncomfortable, it's like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And it's not about us. Yes, it's uncomfortable. And if it is even more challenging to sit with someone in their sadness, in the mud, and not try to fix it. Right? You give us a project. Oh, you want me to fix this? Oh, I am all over that.
Yeah.
To know that's not what we're here to do. Whew, that takes courage. That takes, I don't know, being willing to be vulnerable.
Tremendous courage. Vulnerable. Yes. Because here's the thing, their grief is going to awaken in us our grief. Because we live in a society that avoids grief at all costs, and where we're avoidant of grief, we're phobic about mourning, right? So mourning is going to heal the grief journey. Mourning is when we will actually transform the grief into an external expression, grief being internal, mourning being the external. So that conversion piece, because we're so phobic against mourning, so we block it at every turn, and we're going to avoid our grief because we're not going to give it any kind of external expression, so we don't even want to feel it on the inside ourselves. When somebody is in front of us and they're crying, or they're in front of us and they're lost in their experience, or they're just describing to us a sad story about their loss, the grief inside of us, it's not going away with time. It's still buried and carried inside of us, and it's awaiting welcome. And guess what? Somebody else's grief, our grief recognizes as welcome. Right? Beautiful. So what's bubbling up for us when you say, why is my heart aching because of that? Well, their heartache is touching something for you too that can be healed.
Absolutely.
Right? It can be healed with the bubbling up, and with the being present with, and with the conversation about,
It's just so important to have these conversations. And, it's interesting because I just read somewhere, when someone dies, five people are affected by this grief. But to me, 5, I'm sorry, I beg to differ, because the ripple of grief when somebody dies, it may not be their immediate family, friends, teachers who taught them, community members, their church group. How can it just be 5? And I don't know where we get that magic number. I want to fight that number, because it's almost like the rest of us, well, we shouldn't be grieving because we're not in the immediate circle.
That's right.
Right?
And 5 doesn't even include all family members.
5 only includes
immediate family. It's insane.
That's like, I want to find who found that number. I want to challenge that number. And we've talked about, I talk about forgotten grievers. You talk about buried and carried grief. All these people walking around thinking, well, I shouldn't be grieving. I'm not. And it's like, no, yeah. We just heard one of the local hockey kids who's 14, suddenly was diagnosed with this just horrific disease. I don't know what it was, but you know, when you read that, and I think like we're a real hockey town here, you know, we're true Canadians, true hockey town. And oh boy. And anyway, I went to watch 8-year-olds play hockey last night. It was the most entertaining thing. It was like turtles on their back and like dropping their stick, and like it was anyway. But I thought about, here's this kid. So imagine the family, the teammates, the coaches, the other parents, this ripple through this community. And I think we need to connect as a community and support one another, right? Everyone's like focusing in on the family, thank goodness. And let's gather as community and say, this is devastating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. And let's learn as a community how best to support this family, not because of what we think they need, but because we've made a space for them to tell us and to not tell us. And what I mean by that is we've made a space for them to be whatever they need to be. And if what they need to be is silent, if they can't communicate what they need, then we're not going to force them into any kind of a position. We're going to come in and we're going to support them underneath. So we're going to make the meals. And this is what I love about small towns and small communities, right? You do this instinctively. You make the casseroles, you deliver it, and it's not just on the day of the funeral, it's for weeks afterwards.
I am not making the casserole, Maria, but just so you know. But I
get it. We had that conversation last time. Cooking, not your thing. I get it. But so that's not what's for you to do. But what you can do is you can sit quietly next to the mother.
Absolutely.
And just breathe with her, right? Absolutely. One of us has the gift that we can bring. And the secret of a compassionate grief community is if the family can't tell us what they need, what we can do is we can take a deep breath in and we can allow ourselves to feel whatever vulnerability we're feeling around that, and we'll know what to do. We'll know.
And lead with our hearts. Lead with our hearts, right? Just check in with your heart and support the supporters as well. Maybe that little private, they need this time to privately grieve together. There's going to be grandparents and aunts and friends, and they're probably all a hot mess right now, right? And so let's support one another. Let's support them. And, you know, I don't think that there's a single person in the world that if they came outside and their walkway was shoveled, or right, that they would be like,
say, how dare you do that for me?
Privacy, right? Yeah. Like just shoveled your walkway and left it, or in the summer, you know, whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm looking to connect with the hockey people as a support, because that's what I can do, right? I don't know this family, but this is a child in our community. I don't need to know. You know, and here we are, as we always say, there's grief and joy, right? There's this grief in our community and a joy of we're going away next weekend, and you can allow space for all of it.
Yes.
Right? Allow space for all of it.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
We live in a society of duality, and on planet Earth, duality is the way that we roll. And so we have dark and light, we have good and bad. And we need to go through the shadow stuff in order to really appreciate the light stuff, right?
100%. And I feel like it isn't all darkness, or all darkness or all light. It's like a sliding scale, a continuum, right? There are times in your life where you're kind of leaning to the dark side, and then other times it's just there's so much joy, you're just bursting. And just hold on to those, right?
Yeah. And it's an and with. It's an and with.
Yes.
You know, St. Francis of Assisi spoke about joy in a different way.
Mm.
And what he said is, joy is not the pursuit of happiness. There is joy in everything. There is the exquisite pain that is also joy.
Mm.
And so it's not pain or joy, it's joy even in the pain.
So what would the joy in the pain be? Tell me more.
So when I sit with my own personal pain, or when I'm sitting with a client in the pain, there is inevitably a moment of, if I didn't love you so much, it wouldn't hurt half so bad.
Mm.
And in that moment, that is the joy.
Mm.
Right? If I didn't love you so much. And this isn't the payment for love. I've heard people talk about, Dr. Wolfeld talks about grief is love's conjoined twin, which is a
Mm.
interesting idea, right?
Mm.
And I love the idea of conjoined twin as opposed to the opposite side of the coin. Because when we
Right.
think of the opposite side of the coin, it's this or this. But when he talks about it as conjoined twin, then there's no separation there, right? And in our love relationships, we know we go through grief and love many times in a single day.
Absolutely.
I wish you were this instead of this, but I love you for this, and all of this stuff. When that person is no longer part of our physical realm, that relationship continues. But the only way we find where the relationship is to allow ourselves the grief journey, because that helps us to feel that pain and joy and find where it is now. Right?
Oh, that's just a whole other conversation because, right? Because in every transition, in every death, like I'll say it, elephant in the room, when someone dies, perhaps there are things that are, you can celebrate quietly because you can't tell everyone you're feeling. If you're a caregiver and someone at last is no longer suffering, physically suffering, mentally, emotionally, and you are no longer caregiving, which has been all consuming, that's okay. And
there's
even,
relief.
right? There's
Relief
relief in that.
Relief is a very real symptom of grief too.
Yes, absolutely. And we're gonna have to talk about that more.
Yeah.
Time, right? Because that's just so good. Because I feel people feel tremendous guilt.
Yes.
In that relief, in that letting go or allowing the joy. I remember, and I wrote about Mary Jo, say that because she said I could use her name, when her husband died, and she was at nursing school, and she was laughing about something, and somebody scolded her, how can you laugh at this time? Your husband just died. And she just looked at her and said, you know what? I have cried more tears in the last year than I could possibly count. If I'm able to laugh right now, that's like something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Allowing it all.
Yeah. I had a client who her description of it was, fell to my knees and yelled hallelujah in the moment of his death. And a nurse came in, and what we discovered in the unfoldment of speaking the death story is that the nurse shamed her. Right? Shamed her about the hallelujah. What was so beautiful is, as the death story came forward and as we kept speaking through it, she said that the hallelujah was, I saw the angels dancing and he was one of them. Of course, that's a hallelujah moment.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
And what she came to say to me is, and I ushered him through it. I ushered him through it. And I don't carry that.
Gets you right in the feels, as my daughter said, right?
Because that's just, it's so genuine and it's so authentic, and that a nurse would come in And she, like, I still can't get my.
They don't, and how sad for her, right? That she wasn't able to be present and to allow whatever experience this woman was experiencing. There's judgment, right? When we get stuck
Well,
in judgment.
yeah, so when the nurse is doing that, that's about what's going on for the nurse. That's not
Oh,
about what's going on
yes.
in the room, right? But here's the thing about shame and guilt, because of course, so the hallelujah, we have this experience of relief and release at the same time.
Mm.
And then what happens is we've got this shaming going on, and what I'm feeling is relief guilt, which is
Mm.
a very real thing. Relief guilt is
Yeah.
it often shows up in regret review, and we can talk about that another time.
Mm-hmm.
But so that relief guilt, the guilt is about the behavior, right? When we say we're guilty about something, and this is Brene Brown's.
Oh, I love Brene. I'm
Brilliant.
listening to her audiobook right now.
Yeah, it's her brilliant realization of the difference between guilt and shame, where guilt is the behavior that I regret doing, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
something that maybe I need to make amends for, or whatever. I was wrong for doing it. Shame is I am wrong or I am bad.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so when we say that, the nurse is coming in shaming her, when anybody is shaming somebody, they're wanting them to feel bad or wrong. They're not talking about a
Mm-hmm.
behavioral thing.
Oh,
And as we started unpacking this story, what we were able to see is, well, first of all, it was the nurse's value judgment, not her
yeah.
own, so she didn't need to take it on. But the other thing that we unpacked in that was the discovery that, well, but if guilt is about, I want to remember the way she said it, because she said it so beautifully. She just landed it for herself. If guilt is about my behavior, and my behavior was falling to my knees and saying hallelujah, I got nothing to be guilty about. And that's how regret review works, is that we're actually reviewing the moment for what it really was. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we've got this kind of guilt that is connected with the joy that happens in that moment, and
Yeah.
we're feeling guilt about that, we can really turn a focus on, so what was really going on there, and do I really have anything to feel guilty about? Only the individual who experienced it can know.
That's
And
right.
if there is something, if I did do something, because regret review is, what did I do? What didn't I do? What would I have liked to have done?
Yeah,
can
we
feel
all
regret.
wish we had done some things differently. So that's okay too. If you look back and say, yeah, I wish I would have done that differently.
Yeah, yeah,
That's also part of the human experience.
that's right. And that's where forgiveness plays such a big role, right?
Oh boy, so many more things to talk about.
Well, that's why we agreed to do this so regularly, right?
I know, and it's just so important, because it's like, okay, wait, we have to talk about forgiveness and guilt and shame and all of these things, and there's so much juiciness. So, once again, I'm so excited that we did this, and yeah, I just laugh because I think we could just talk for hours. But I'm gonna go get my dog's toenails clipped because I don't want to do it. And keep wearing your beautiful colors and shining your light. And we will chat again soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
I can't wait. Love you dearly.
Love you.
Mwah.
Namaste, my dear friend. Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.